Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Regina, do you want to go ahead and get us started?
Yes, that'll be fine. Waiting on FGTV. Have we gotten started, or do I need to wait for you guys to count us down?
Go right ahead.
We're live.
Okay, thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. We are here this morning for our elections update with our elections director, Mr. Richard Barron. I would ask that you allow him to make his comments and provide his updates. If you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and submit those in our question and answer, or you may raise your hand and we will make sure that your question is placed before him. I will turn things over now to Mr. Barron.
Are you going to put up the presentation, or should I've got it here? If not, I'll just.
Okay.
Rick, this is Jessica. Good morning. I will go ahead and pull that up for you. No problem.
Okay. I mean, because I can just go over it. I've got it in front of me. I just didn't know if you were going to put it up.
I'll go ahead and pull it up just so others can see what you're speaking from. Thank you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had the wrong one. Hold on one second. Rick, go ahead and just start and I'll pull
Okay. Okay. With regard to the COVID-19 outbreak impact, we've had 5 permanent employees and 18 contractors infected with COVID. We are doing virtual knowledge transfer and management via Zoom and other methods. Many of my 5 of my 6 permanent staff have tested positive for COVID. Therefore, we're as long as they're able to work, we are having them telework and manage things from home. And we have put people in place that can undertake their duties. Can you go to the next slide, please, Jessica? I'm on slide 2. And so we're sourcing key duties through a network of partners, and that you will see on the next slide. So we've got different assignments that we've made based on the task. We've got our absentee ballot drop box is being handled by corporate temps in the elections group. Delivery of supplies, you see the same thing. Election day preparation, we've brought in Dominion to help with logic and accuracy testing, and the elections group is helping manage that. Poll pad programming, that will be done most likely at Dominion by No Ink. No Ink is coming in next week. They're the makers of poll pad, and they're supplying the staff to do that for us. The packing of supplies for election day, that is being done. It's being overseen as well by the elections group, or they're helping us manage that along with corporate temps and some county staff. Election staff and Dominion will be creating the cards for election day machines, turnover of the early voting machines to prep for election day. That is being done by a variety of groups that you see there. And then we are going to be using a combination of moving companies as well as our own couriers with trucks to move election day equipment. Next slide. The COVID mitigation for employees, we sanitize the warehouse with the germicidal barrier. In addition, we set up UV lights, HEPA filters. We have all of the garage doors and open in there, as well as any other door that will get air circulating through there. And we have security stationed at all of those entrances. Inspection of all other work areas. We leased space at Georgia World Congress Center for greater social distancing. We moved all of our elections equipment over there over the weekend. We are doing PPE spot checks in not only out there, but in the various departments. We've had all of our employees, even downtown, tested, and we're putting additional methods for social distancing in place for all staff. And actually this morning, there will be a Q&A with all of my staff with the Board of Health, Dr. David Holland. Next slide, please. So in the polling places, our poll workers are all required to wear masks. We'll have social distancing markers. Styluses will be sanitized between voters. There's hand sanitizer available, and masks will be available for those who don't have them. Next slide, please. The staffing plan. Our goal was to get 2,780. Currently, we're at 3,199. Most will be training all of those workers through November 1st. We have 400 additional workers beyond the minimum requirements. We are also going to have line managers in place in addition to that, as well as a deputy registrar in each location that will be able to cancel absentee ballot applications. Plus, we're going to have 200 Fulton County employees on standby for election support as in a case there are any dropouts. Next slide, please. This was as of October 19th. Processed 249,061 applications, more than 36,000 duplicates and rejections. I know that we're above 211,000 mailed ballots that have been mailed right now, and I believe we've received now just over 96,000 absentee ballots back. And I know that through yesterday morning, more than 22,000 ballot applications had been canceled. So that means that we are getting close to 120,000 ballots have either been returned or canceled. The applications have been canceled at this point. And that number will go up. So there are about, in the system, about 90,000 ballots that will either end up being canceled, they will go unreturned, or they will be returned to us. We're averaging probably the neighborhood of 4,000 to 5,000 ballots a day that we're receiving back. Next slide, please. I know through yesterday, the overall turnout was over 161,000. State Farm had over 23,000. Alpharetta Library and OC Library were over 7,000 voters each. Northside Library had moved into that fourth spot, followed by Buckhead Library. And Palmetto Library is now open the final 2 weeks. Just to remind everybody about early voting, we are open 8 to 6 through Saturday of this week, 10 to 6 on Sunday, and then we'll be open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. every day next week, Monday through Friday. Next slide, please. We have a wait tool time that's live on our Fulton Votes app. You can download at Google Play or on the App Store, or you can go to fultonelections.com. What that tool does is allow voters to see where the wait times are. One thing that I do know is that some people have questioned that some of the wait times seem slower in the south part of the county versus the north part of the county. And one thing that we looked at yesterday is that 68% of the voters that are using State Farm Arena are from the south precincts in the county. Therefore, and we do have 2 other mega sites at Georgia International Convention Center down in College Park, as well as the Dorothy Benson Center up in Sandy Springs. I would encourage people that want to avoid wait times to either go to the Dorothy Benson Center, which has not been having lines, or GICC, where the lines have also been short. Either one of those locations, or to go to State Farm. But that wait tool, what it does is it allows you the voter to look up and see where the wait times are. Now, if voters wait until Thursday or Friday next week, possibly even Wednesday, the lines are going to lengthen because of volume. We have been averaging more than 18,000 voters a day The first week was much busier than this week. We averaged over 20,000 voters a day in week 1, and that the overall average has come down in week 2 because we've had over the weekend, we only had a little over 13,000 Saturday, 10,000 Sunday, and then we've been in the 14, I think, to 17,000 range the first 3 days of this week. So we haven't seen quite the volume this week that we did in week 1, but we expect that to go way up next week. Next slide, please. This is the mobile voter bus schedule. And the 2 buses today are at, this is October 22nd, they're North River Baptist Church and the Grant Park Recreation Center here in Atlanta. And then tomorrow they will be visiting Mount Carmel Baptist Church as well as Johns Creek United Methodist Church. On Saturday and Sunday, they'll be at the Enon Church and Ponce City Market for the entire weekend. And then next week, 1 bus will be at Roswell Community Center for 3 days, and the other one will be going to Tracy Wyatt Community Center, then Piedmont Park Charles Allen Gate, and Evelyn Lowry Library at Southwest. Then for the overflow, the last 2 days, the buses will be assigned to go to 2 of the busier sites in the county. Right now, what we're looking at is placing 1 in Alpharetta, either near to the Alpharetta Library, the OC Library, because those are number 2 and 3 on the list. And then for a site in the south, we will probably put the 2nd bus at CT Martin, the way the turnout is looking. Next slide, please. Palmetto, of course, early voting is now open, and we've got a new drop box at Chattahoochee Hills. That brings us to 38 drop boxes countywide. So about 90% of all voters live within 3 miles of a drop box. And of the 96,000 voters that have used or that have returned absentee by mail ballots, I will get you the figure right now, and I will tell you that the drop boxes are being used heavily, and we have already seen, just one moment, apologize for the wait. $43,475 voters have used the drop boxes. So they are being used every day. We're emptying those every day, and those are surveilled 24 hours a day by camera for security purposes. Next slide, please. And our information campaign that we are promoting is that voting early is safe and easy. You want to skip the lines, vote early, October 12th through the 30th. And also the third one, which is the most important one going into Election Day, is know before you go. Election Day locations have changed for thousands of voters, for more than 1/3 of the voters in the county. We added 91 locations compared to the June election. And that was done in order to reduce the number of voters assigned to polling locations. Almost all of our polling sites have less than 5,000 voters assigned to them right now. And so what we really need voters to do is either to be on the lookout. They should have received their precinct cards already if they were an affected precinct, or the mailers that we've been sending out that are reminding voters to go to the My Voter page and to verify where they are supposed to be on Election Day. Next slide, please. We're using, this is part of our information campaign, this slide, so we'll move on from there. Oops. And again, know before you go. Please remind voters to check the Georgia My Voter page in case your Election Day polling place has changed. It's required that voters vote in their location on Election Day, their assigned location. We will have line managers at all of our locations. At least one will be equipped with an iPad to be able to help direct voters if they're in the wrong location. if a voter shows up at the wrong location, they have to vote a provisional ballot. And provisional voters take 3 times as long to process as a regular voter. Next slide, please. And that is it. So I can take any questions.
All right, Mr. Barron, we do have several questions in our question portion. The first question, has your office received calls about absentee ballots not arriving to their homes? If so, what are some of the causes for the delays?
We do get calls, and I think part of the reason is the state set up a vendor for all the counties to use, and the ballots were being mailed from Arizona. So it's generally taking about 14 days from the issue date to get ballots from the vendor. And in my case, I know my issue date in MVP, or my issue date in ElectionNet was 9/21. I signed up for ballot tracks. I received mine information that my ballot was mailed on the 24th. I saw on the envelope there was a 9/26 postmark, and I received mine October 3rd. Therefore, you know, there is about a 2-week delay from the issue date to get it. That's one reason why the post office was sent a mailer out to every person, every mailbox that said, if you're going to vote by mail, please request that absentee by mail ballot by October 20th. And we agree with the post office on that. We are now mailing the ballots locally from Fulton County to the voters. So anyone that applied for an absentee by mail beginning last Friday, those ballots are all being mailed from our office in Fulton County downtown.
All right. This next question is from Brad at the AGC. How is absentee ballot collection and processing being impacted by the outbreak?
You broke up. I think I can see the question. We didn't really have an interruption with that. We just had to reassign people to that process. We had to get some people in place, get them trained so they knew what to do. And then the collections have been happening every day without fail in that regard.
All right. How is absentee ballot processing going overall? We've heard problems with some overseas ballots. Can you comment on that process?
Well, the absentee ballot process is going very smoothly. Most of the issues that we have are just people waiting to get the ballots in the mail. I mean, that is the most common question that we receive is, where is my ballot? We've had to reissue some ballots because it seems like, you know, it's been 3 weeks. We've had a number of ballots that were, I think, mailed either on 9/18, 9/21, or 9/24, and it took some voters just never received their ballots. So we have reissued many of those ballots. Some people, as I mentioned earlier, there are at least 22,000 people as of yesterday morning that had canceled their ballot application and gone and voted in person. And with regard to comments of problems with ballots overseas, usually if there's an issue with a ballot that hasn't been received from a voter overseas, that most of the time there is something that has happened with the email. And that's usually the problem that I hear about. It's maybe something with the email address, but I have not been told of any widespread problem. It seems to be from the anecdotes, just a person here and there.
Can you talk about the situation with the state's eNet system? How would you evaluate its performance this week?
I had heard yesterday that it was operating slowly in our office, but it didn't seem to be that way out in the field in the early voting sites. There could be some counties that are experiencing issues, although it doesn't seem this week to be impacting our operations as it did last week.
Can you talk about concerns about voter suppression and what you tell voters about the concerns, how seriously you take this issue?
Well, I mean, we take that issue seriously, and that's why, other than the June election in Fulton County, we've always been committed to making early voting the main tool that enfranchises voters. And as you well know, we have more early voting locations than Cobb, DeKalb, and Gwinnett counties combined. And you could probably add another county in there, one of the other metro counties, and we have more than probably 4 counties combined. So we provide a number of options to vote early, and we have 3 mega sites. We have more resources out there now than we've ever had. We also have State Farm Arena as part of that. We have the Dorothy Benson Center, and we have the Georgia International Convention Center. Those 3 sites themselves have 400 ballot marking devices, and I believe it's 84 or 85 check-in stations between them. So those ones can handle much more capacity than many of the other sites. And I think that shows our commitment. One of the other things that we did this time, our goal before the pandemic was to get up to 220 locations. But after what we saw in June, after we lost so many locations, that we really needed to not only hit that number, but to try to exceed it. And we got up to 255 locations, so that we have only, I believe, 12 precincts with more than 5,000 voters assigned. And that was a monumental task to get that many polling locations ahead of this election. But it's very important for us to have voters know where they're supposed to go. So that communication for us is a key, and of course the media is a key instrument in getting that message out, because you guys have the viewers and the readers that can help us get that message out to voters.
What are your biggest concerns as we head towards Election Day?
Know before you go. I mean, that is my biggest concern, is voters going to the correct polling location. There's no greater concern that I had going into this election than that getting that message out. We've added 91 polling locations since June. I can't reiterate that enough, that voters, that is the message voters need to get. And that's why we put the precinct cards in the mail. We did a big head of household mailing, and we've done one other mailer to make sure to remind people about the My Voter page.
How will Fulton County go about processing absentee ballots received before Election Day?
We started processing those on Monday. We started opening those on Monday, and we are opening and scanning them this week, and we will keep doing that all the way through Election Day.
Is there a worry that the COVID outbreak might keep some poll workers away, or would have some poll locations change their minds and decline to participate?
We have put some measures in place to avoid that from happening. And one of the things we did was I was able to get a grant for $6.3 million from Center for Tech and Civic Life. And part of that, the grant funds go to offering a service to decontaminate polling locations after the election. And one of the other things that we do is we're adding COVID stipends to make sure that poll workers show up to work, that they have that extra financial incentive to come. But I think right now what we're hearing is that the people that have signed up to work Election Day are committed and dedicated to doing that. And I think even without this COVID stipend, because of the importance of this presidential election, that we will see the poll workers show up, and we have had no polling place indicate that they will decline to participate this time.
All right. How long should it take to process and count ballots returned via ballot drop box? The state says they are collected at least every 72 hours, but some voters' MVP pages are saying their ballots have not been received.
What I would advise voters to do is just check them daily. What happens is, it depends on the time of day that you deposit it in a drop box. Those are emptied every day, but if you put it in the afternoon, say, it's not going to be picked up until the following day, and then from then it'll be delivered, and then it might take an additional day or day and a half to get scanned into the system. Therefore, it's conceivable that it could take about 3 days after you deposit it, depending on when you do it, before it's going to be updated on the My Voter page. But we have a team that scans those ballots in as quickly as they can when we receive them.
Right. One last additional question.
I think that 72 hour is what is the recommended, and that was put in place a lot for the rural counties. In Fulton County, we are emptying the boxes daily, and if the volume increases, we'll start doing it twice a day. And on election day, we plan on doing it 2 to 3 times that day. And we have to lock them down at 7 p.m. on election night.
Fox 5 Atlanta has been contacted by numerous voters who have cast their ballots during early voting, but when they go to check on My Voter page, the ballot was not received. Your office has said they are aware of glitch and it is happening statewide. How widespread is this problem? How many voters have reported this problem?
This is a glitch. I'm not sure what they mean by a glitch. I guess I would. I don't know about somebody in the office that would have been talking about a glitch. There are last week when I think during the first 3 days of early voting, it was, we have 2 ways we can check voters in Fulton County. We have Easy Vote and we have ElectionNet. And what Easy Vote allows us to do is to print a ballot application that's pre-printed for the voter. So all they have to do is initial and sign it. Therefore, and it can act as a backup if ElectionNet has an issue. So if we are auditing and we do this every election, sometimes last week, and during the first 3 days, some poll workers said they could not get records to save because it was taking so long to process the voters. So we process them through Easy Vote. We take those ballot applications, and then afterwards we audit those, and that is being done now by a large team of people to make sure that every single absentee ballot application at an early voting site was entered into the My Voter page. If a voter's ballot was accepted into the scanner, their ballot was cast. What the My Voter page has there's no tie-in between the My Voter page and the scanners, the precinct scanners that are in the early voting sites. If a voter's ballot was accepted by a scanner, their ballot was cast. What the difference is that what the My Voter page does is it reflects credit for voting. And at least in Fulton County, I can't speak for the other counties, but there were issues the first 3 days of early voting getting records to save. And we're making sure we're going through each one of those polling sites to make sure all of those get entered. And that's something that we do every election, regardless of whether we're having issues with ElectionNet. I just know that it was an issue. It was a problem last week. It was taking sometimes in excess of 20 minutes for our call center just to look up a voter record if a voter called into our call center because the system was operating so slow. And what happens in the polling locations is that you need to get voters through the line. So if we go to Easy Vote and we check them in through Easy Vote, then we're able to go back through and make sure we get those voter records updated. But credit for voting in ElectionNet has nothing to do with whether a ballot was scanned by the precinct scanner.
We have a reporter asking if you could once again briefly recap the steps taken to address the COVID-19 outbreak at the warehouse.
Sure. What we did was we are considered essential infrastructure, being election employees. Therefore, under that in that situation, as long as workers are not positive or showing, as long as they have tested negative, and even if they are exposed, they can continue to work. So that is what we have been doing. We have made sure all of the doors are open out at our warehouse. We have put in UV lights. We have put in more HEPA filters. We have asked the building tenant, the building owner to recycle or to change the way the air conditioning is recycled. We put down a 30-day germicidal barrier that will kill anything on contact. And then we moved all of our election equipment, all the BMDs, printers, our carriers, all of that is moved over to the Georgia World Congress Center over the weekend. That way we're able to spread out more. We're able to get the logic and accuracy testing done over there, and that freed up a lot of room in the warehouse for our supply operation to be able to spread out as well, so that we can pack all the supply boxes for election day. And though everybody is being tested on a daily basis, they're getting rapid tests that anybody that's been working at the warehouse. We've asked all staff to get tested, which I believe is complete now, just at all in our call centers and our downtown offices as well.
And our final question, are you expecting an increase in poll watchers and observers to the absentee ballot processing tabulation process? Can you talk about the atmosphere around this election with those issues?
Well, I think we get a list from the parties ahead of early voting, that a list of poll watchers. So those poll watchers have been out in the field, and they are a welcome part of the process. And we don't really have any issues with them. I think sometimes there are misunderstandings between the poll watchers and the poll managers and poll watchers. And so we try to get those squared away on an issue by issue basis, but there's nothing happening in the field that we don't see in any other election. And it seems as though the poll watchers are out there trying to do what they've been assigned to do, and our poll managers are trying to do their jobs as they are trained to do.
All right, thank you. Those were all of the questions that we received from the journalists that are attending this particular press conference. There are no other questions. Do you have a closing statement?
No, other than just to please help us get the word out to the voters about know before you go, and checking they can either check the My Voter page or call our office at 404-612-7020 and find out where they are registered to vote on election day.
All right. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to all of the journalists who attended our press conference today.
Thanks.